Hey friends, I wanted to tell you about something exciting that we're doing this year. We're hosting the Inaugural Kolsch Cup, and we want you to take part. Every competitor will receive a sweet Kolsch Cup t-shirt, and we will be awarding one Grand Champion trophy to the King or Queen of Kolsch, as well as 2 runner-up medalists. All entries will receive our official scorecards, so you'll know how we judged your Kolsch. And you can learn more by going to kolschcup.com and signing up today. Bonus, top-tier members of our Patreon community get 1 free entry into the competition, which is great because top-tier members who will be receiving January's kit this month are getting the famous true-to-style Kolsch shipped out with a pack of the incredible Imperial Dieter. I can hardly contain my excitement, so again, go to kolschcup.com for more details and sign up today to reserve your spot.
Entertaining shows with content that spreads information and sparks discourse throughout the community. This is the Pearl Media Network.
Making extract beer drier, dry hop sterilization, upgrading to PVC-free beer lines, and a question about creamer faucet functionality. This is Homebrew Happy Hour, episode 216. Oh, well, hi there, and welcome to the Homebrew Happy Hour. This is the show where we supply the answers to your homebrewing questions, and we discuss all things related to craft beer. If you have a question you would like us to discuss on a future episode, you can go to homebrewhappyhour.com and click on that submit a question link at the top of the page, or now you can call or text them in by using 325-305-6107. I am your host, Joshua Stubing. Today, I'm joined by the Director of Operations at cmbecker.com, right over there, Mr. James Carlson, as well as the President and Chief Keg Washer of KegConnection.com, Mr. Todd Burns. Gentlemen, how are y'all doing today?
Good, except you put me, I'm beside you on my screen.
Yeah, I've got you're here.
Yes,
Todd's over here.
Oh, see that, and you pointed to me correctly on what they're gonna see, because James, you're over here on mine, and Todd, you're below me, and it all beneath me. Every time I say, it's always like that Saturday Night Live. When I say below me, people are like, "Oh, that Sean Connery bit from Saturday Night Live."
I love that one.
I love that. Oh gosh, I miss it. I should. Todd always calls me out because our screens aren't one for one, and sometimes when I put things up on the screen, y'all can't see it because this is just a Zoom meeting. I'm managing everything else in this software called OBS, which if you're doing a podcast or anything video, I highly recommend it. Totally free. But that's my favorite part is I'll say something like, "Yeah, on the screen," and Todd's like, "I don't see that on the screen." Like, yeah, I know you don't see it on the screen because I'm talking about my screen and the user screen. But anyways, I think I flubbed the title of the show. I don't think I said PVC-free. I think I said PVC. I'll blame my speech impediment. But also in the Kolsch Cup, I think I mispronounced something there too. But all the information is correct. I'm terribly excited. Guys, we're past 50 entries in the Kolsch Cup as of this morning. Nice. 52 to be specific. And then someone just messaged me as I was reading it, and that's why I kind of stuttered on some of the parts. He asked if his friends could get a discount if he got their homebrew club to sign up. So I was like, well, I'm gonna message
discount from what?
I know. Good point. It's $20, and if you're in the Patreon though, you get a free entry. But we've been getting a lot of messages. I see Todd, you were active the other day in our Homebrew Happy Hour Super Duper Secret Club on Facebook. People have been showing us, look, I'm brewing the Kolsch for the competition, and Todd was going in there like, oh, I can't wait to taste it.
Yeah, I mean, it just showed up on when I went in there, it just showed up. So I don't know. I guess there's a way to go into it where that's all I see, but you'd have to show me that.
But you were like, it was so funny because I know there's no inherent tone to text, but you came across like a very giddy schoolgirl. Like all this Kolsch.
When there's 50 different people sending me Kolsch, I am like a giddy schoolgirl.
That is true. Me too, though. I'm
like Homer Simpson and donuts.
That's right.
Or beer.
One of the lines that I have in the script about like I can hardly contain my excitement. I feel so dorky because I'm just reading it. But the truth is, these guys will attest for it. They can confirm. I am so excited. I cannot believe how popular this is taking off. And We have a lot of listeners, and I always joke about, it's my mom and some of my cousins, and that's it. But I was like, man, if we even get a fraction of 1%, this will be fun. And we've gotten that. So it's like, hey, this is fantastic.
Plus, all the listeners know you're,
What?
Your
obsession.
That's a good
I knew,
Kolsch.
you were trying to be nice. Thank you. You were gonna be like his absolute pathetic obsession. Yeah, we have had a lot of questions though from people who have been asking about. I've never brewed a Kolsch. I've never had a Kolsch. I'm just gonna get the recipe and try to follow it. And I'm like, first off, try to find some commercial Kolsch. I don't even mean for the competition. I mean for your betterment of mental and physical health. It's drinking a cloud. It's a beautiful experience 9 out of 10 times. If you can get Fru, that's my favorite imported Kolsch. Reisdorf is pretty popular across the country and found in a lot of major cities. You can get imported Kolsch, and there are some domestic breweries doing it okay. Some of them, in our experience, James, like a lot of the local ones in Texas that do it, they tend to be a tad sweet. They're
and also sometimes over hopped, and that's the one thing about Kolsch is it's a lightly hopped beer.
Exactly, and it doesn't take a lot to be over hopped, but the American way is definitely throwing a lot of hops at something. So some breweries do, where it's like, it's an Indian pale Kolsch, and
IPA Kolsch,
the IP Kolsch. But before we get into the show, some small talk. I already talked about Kolsch Cup. You can go to kolschcup.com. We have a nice landing page there if you want to register and get more information about that. You can also, if you are interested in our Patreon, you can go to patreon.com/homebrew happy hour. Top tier members, like I mentioned at the top in the ad bumper, do get one free entry into the Kolsch Cup, as well as if you're receiving a recipe kit this month, you're getting the recipe kit on us with Imperial Dieter. That's fun. Which is my segue now, because we're about to announce at the time of this publishing our recipe choices for the month of February are going to be.
Is it show and tell time?
Yeah, it is. But let me. So we're.
Sorry.
Yeah, almost. You're almost there. The first option is going to be the Low Tide Session IPA, a delicious session IPA. The last time we did a session, it was the Happy Little Hops, and that was one of the best received IPA recipes that we've done so far. People have asked for that to come back, and so I talked to Joe, and he goes, we could bring it back, but I think we should try Low Tide, because I really think people are going to like that too. And then they can pick a favorite, and maybe later in the year we can do a dealer's choice where we do a vote and people will get the end result there. So Low Tide IPA, and the other one is the Abbey's Light Belgian Pale Ale, which is now, Todd, it's your time. Yeah, up there we go.
So this is 6 days old, pretty clear for 6 days old.
Very clear.
It's actually I'm not drinking this month, but I'm going to taste and swallow.
Yeah. Oh no.
It's very, very good. I'm telling you, I would highly recommend this one. So far, for 6 days in, I hit my starting gravity. May have hit it maybe just a little over, but not much, and then. Right now, it's at 1.008. So it's supposed to hit 1.009. So I'm a little lower than that. So it's maybe a tad bit drier. But I did just cold crash it this morning after I took that gravity reading. And that's so close you can barely tell on the hydrometer where it really is, right?
Yeah,
so,
I think that's within the margin of error of the.
Yeah, I actually checked it. I checked it with 2 hydrometers because I'm a geek.
Because you can, and you do, and you broke one, and then
I broke both of them. I got to get more hydrometers. So.
Are you using?
You look now. I'm using a glass hydrometer case. How long is that gonna last?
I was about to just say, is that new? Did that come with that Kessler kit? Is that how you got?
It smells good too. I can't believe what a good beer this is after 6 days.
Is that how you got that? That nice test tube. That nice test tube, was that from Kessler as well?
No. Joe gave me this.
Dang, I was gonna say, because I don't get the nice stuff. When we get things from vendors, Todd always is like, "Look what I got," and I was like, "Oh, what did I get?" He goes, "Oh, you didn't pay for this."
Wow, unbelievable.
Yeah,
and James says show and tell as well.
James does, but I want to, before we do your show, James, I want to say the Belgian Pale Ale, off the top of my head, is not my kind of style, but I'm looking forward to trying it because it should be next time I come up, Todd, it's going to be February. So you have no excuse to not keg the Dunkel. You have no excuse to not keg the Belgian.
Well, even if I don't keg it, it'll be in the fermenter. You can just pull some off.
Yeah,
it's already carbonated.
It is carbonated. You're right.
I actually put it. So I capped it off with a vent. It had a bubbler on it, and I took that off and put the thing with the gauge, and it has a pressure relief valve on it, and it was going up to the 10 psi for the last day, and it already had some carbonation in it before I did that, and now it's fairly well carbonated. It's amazing, but it's wow, I'm so excited about this beer. I'm telling you, it's going to change how you feel about Belgian beers, Josh. You're going to like this one.
James, I mean, I need your input too, because I kind of just follow your lead in regards to beers that I criticize. I'm like, oh yeah, I'm a German guy.
Some of the Belgian ales, maybe not my favorite. The ones that have, a lot going on. You could tell in the yeast, the esters.
Yeah. This one's not. This is a very light version, and I have to. I don't know. I have to push back a little bit on that, James. The last time
That's just my personal taste.
No. I'm not going to let you off the hook. The last time I saw you in Belgium, you looked like you were really enjoying Belgian beer.
Oh yeah.
I remember you in Brussels drinking a lot of Belgian beers with a big smile on your face.
I remember too, because y'all were.
And you know what? That honestly, that is. To me, that's the apples to oranges. So when you're there, yes. A lot of the beer we were enjoying, we can't even get here.
Right.
So it's a lot of the Belgian ales that you can get here, other than Chimay. They're all right, but there wouldn't be a daily. But some of that, the pink elephant. Which one was that, Todd?
Oh, the Tremors.
That was really good.
Tremont.
Yeah.
It's
Delirium.
Tremont.
Oh, right. Yeah.
Yeah. And that was good. And then we had some Abbey ales that were really good. Oh man. Yeah. That West Verlotten, what was that? 12 that we got?
I still have a bottle of that in my fridge. We got to drink that next time we're here.
Wow. Yeah. Yeah. That's like considered by many the best beer in the world.
Really? Yeah. I didn't know you had that in your fridge.
We got to try. I'm almost certain I still have one.
We'll do a Patreon live stream of it when I'm up there next year.
Remember, those were 20 euros a bottle in
what?
Brussels. Yes.
What is that, like $34?
Back then, it maybe not as
maybe
much.
Not quite.
Okay. I think it was so high because they had to, the Abbey only allows a case per person when you get it, and there was several people going in and getting it, and.
Oh, this isn't that one. I'm talking about the one that we went to where we did the tour.
Oh, what was the name of that brewery?
Everybody knows it. I mean, yeah. I see T-shirts at Homebrew Con where people have been there, so I know it's fairly well known. Maybe I'll walk over there and get a bottle.
I remember that. What bar you offered to buy a bottle, and you were like, you don't want to know how much that cost.
Oh yeah, we bought a bottle and we were somewhere. I don't remember.
Was it in Vienna?
Where we were. We may have been. Yeah, we were in Vienna. You're right. And these Russian guys had a bottle on their table, and they were real rowdy and drinking all these beers. And I was like, oh, we've had that beer before. Let's order one and we'll split it. Me and my wife and James, we ordered it, and we got the bill later, and it was $100 for that bottle of beer.
What?
$100.
Yeah, you could see it on Todd's face. Don't
ask. Yeah,
don't ask.
It was too late to not. Yeah, you don't ask him like, well, how much is it? You're like, a bottle. We just split a bottle. Yeah,
I thought it was going to be like $20 or $15
because that's what it was at the brewery.
Right.
If you remember,
$100.
we bought a bottle. I bought a bottle, and Todd bought a bottle. And it was 20 euros. It was nothing.
Yeah.
Those Austrians were laughing at you, man. You said you're in Vienna, right? They were,
yes.
Like, we
tried to find a Vienna lager the whole time we were there, and we finally found one. We had to drink it. We had to drink a Dos Equis Stark to drink a Vienna lager. Right?
You know what's funny? We had an easier time finding IPAs there. American
Yes. Oh,
IPA.
yeah.
I remember-
American
The
IPAs.
Vienna lager.
I remember you texting me all that. Like, first off, you're texting me incessantly to rub it my nose and that I wasn't there. And then you were texting me like, well, look at all this great beer we're drinking, but we still can't find the Vienna lager. And at bar to bar to bar. Yeah.
Josh is going to go back to Germany with us as soon as the website's done for Germany.
So anyways, James, what do you have for show and tell, James? I want to change that subject or I'm going to mute you again.
I've got, this is that American lager I brewed 3 weeks ago, and it's completely finished and carved, and you know, it's not bad.
Beautiful.
I
It
can't
looks really
believe
nice.
it's only 3 weeks old. And you said it's fully
Yeah.
carved, right?
Yeah, it's fully carved. In fact, I'm gonna keg it. Todd, you'll get a keg, and then I'll get a keg.
Why aren't
of
you
it.
just drinking it? You keep pouring these huge glasses of it up, but I don't see you drinking.
No,
it.
after the podcast, when y'all are off working, and then I start drinking.
Okay.
That's my move. That's my move. I have a fridge full of canned beers that I told my wife I have to drink before we move. I was like, I have to, babe. It makes the fridge lighter. And then she's like, but
Yeah.
then you're going to put more beer in it when we move. I go, yeah, as a welcoming gift, obviously. Yes, that's
Yeah, you gotta go throw out the old and go with the new, right?
Yeah, and the best part,
Absolutely.
I'm finally going to have a proper garage fridge because we're taking our fridge with us, and the new house has a fridge that conveyed with it, a real nice one. So I'm going to have a big old garage fridge. I feel like an
Nice.
adult. I know.
Heck yeah.
I feel like a real
Yeah.
adult.
You can put a tap on it and have a kegerator.
Well, that's what I'm thinking of doing, but it's such a nice fridge. It's one of those Samsung, not smart fridge, but, you know, has all the bells and whistles besides being able to tell you the weather or whatever. And my wife was like, I don't know if I want you messing that up as like it for, because I told her, I was like, I could convert both sides and look how, well, I could put 3 kegs in here total or whatever. She's like, no, or we can have a fridge out in the garage for like when we need to put the girls' hot, you know, like their Kool-Aid stuff in. I was like, what? No, this is my beer fridge.
Garage is the man.
That's what I'm saying. But anyway, yeah. So one more thing of small talk, because I wrote it in here and I don't know if you even read it, Todd. It is dry January. It's coming to an end. This fantastic person of a boss.
It just did a few minutes ago.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. James, when I was up there last week and I'm enjoying myself, and Todd did smoke a cigar with me, but he was like, this just doesn't feel right. And so he goes inside and
not the same.
he comes out and he has what looks like a malted beverage in a cup. And I'm like, oh my gosh, you're going to drink. Okay, I won't say anything. He poured in O'Doul's is what he was enjoying. First
Yeah,
off,
to have my cigar.
why did you have O'Doul's in your fridge?
Well, one of my buddies always brings them and leaves them because he starts mixing them with his beer. So he's so weird. Like, well, I don't want to drink too much, so I'm going to put this in. It's neutral. You know what? O'Doul's isn't bad if you don't think of it as a beer. Think of it as like a sparkling
Hop water
or something. Yeah.
No, you looked like you were not enjoying it. I was drinking the beer and we're talking.
Dude,
and
it's so
he
terrible.
took a sip and
it's
was like,
terrible.
yeah, it was the funniest thing in the
O'Doul's
world.
rule.
Yeah, O'Doul. Yeah, O'Doul's. God, I love that movie. O'Doul. Yeah. Anyway, so I just had to bring that up because I know listeners would get a kick. I wish I would have recorded your face because you did not enjoy a single sip of it, but you choked. You choked it all down. You didn't even pour it out. You choked it down. It was impressive. I've seen you.
I have 2 friends coming this weekend to hunt hogs. So dry January ends on the 29th, not on the 31st.
It's like my Sober October didn't start till
yeah.
my Sober October started on October 5th, I think, and then it ended like the 30th. So yeah, it's subjective.
Never started.
That's right. Yeah. James is over here the whole time. Like, you guys are morons.
The smart one.
Yeah. Anyway,
No, I'm just there's nothing to do with the house, but I did smoke a leather brisket last weekend.
oh, dude,
so-
that looked good. How did it turn out?
Oh, it wasn't good.
No,
I
really?
ended up having to finish in the oven, and then I took the flat off, put it in a crock pot with some beef, the liquid beef broth.
Oh, broth. Yeah.
Onion and a little seasoning, and
Dude.
pressure cooked it, and it turned out really good.
Well, it looked like
But,
it was off to a good start on your
yeah.
Instagram. It just no.
Yeah,
Live and
Todd's the
learn.
brisket man, not me. Yeah.
Live and learn. That's all. Live and
Yeah.
learn. I do have 4 questions for us this week, so let me get into them for us. First question came from our buddy Craig, who used the submission form at homebrewhappyhour.com. Craig wrote, Hi, Josh. Your podcast is a highlight of my commute. I have learned so much, and I hope to meet you guys at a future HomebrewCon. I am what you would probably refer to as a newer brewer, and I still make beer from prepared extract recipes. Shout out to homebrewsupply.com. Thank you, Craig. I have a favorite recipe, yet the 2 times I have brewed it, the final result is just a tad too sweet. It's the American Amble Amber Ale, and I would like for it to finish drier, but is that even possible with extract brews? This might be the year I switch to all grain. Cheers, Craig. I am not the man to ask because I am only following recipes, and I've never even thought like, oh, what will I do if I make this drier? I just follow what James writes down or Lorena writes down. So James, I'm going to defer to you first. Is it even, let's start from the top. Is it even possible to make an extract batch drier or sweeter with just what's in the kit and no adjuncts or like changing out the adjuncts?
I guess if you, without messing with the recipe, you go back and look at the malt and the potential for malt to ferment out. You might try doing a starter and adding a little more yeast to see if you can get it attenuated a little better. But I don't know, Todd. Todd's done more extracts than I have in a long time.
Yeah,
I don't see. Anyway.
I don't really see. I don't think there's any difference between all grain and extract as far as how dry you get it. I think that it has to do with how well it ferments, because sugar's sugar to the beer for the most part. I mean,
well, it also kind of depends on which sugar. So if it's an alpha amylase, that's a long sugar chain. So yeast eat the end and leave the middle, and that creates the body. Now the beta is the little tiny ones, and they're completely fermentable, just like table sugars, completely fermentable. But I don't know what that ratio is in malt is I guess what I'm curious about.
I think it's really hard to know because he didn't really tell us what his starting gravity and what his final gravity was. So without knowing, like if he said, well, my final gravity is 1.018, and I would say, well, it didn't ferment enough. That's the issue. Sure. If it was, 1.01, then I would say that it did ferment enough, and I'm not, maybe it has to do with those types of sugars or something like that. But it's really a hard question to answer without knowing what the starting and final gravity was. What I would say is this: if you want to get if you want to really get a beer dry, because I brew a lot of very dry beers. I like beers drier, maybe even going out of style on some beers because I tend to get a little drier on them. And I say they're dry. Most people that taste them don't perceive them as being exceptionally dry, but I don't like them real sweet, I guess is what I should say. So what I typically do is whatever you're going to ferment, wherever you want to ferment, let's say that your yeast says that the best fermentation for this is 65 degrees. Now it's going to be a range. It's going to be, you can ferment this from 60 to 69 or, 65 to 75. What I typically will do is I will start out at one of the higher ranges and let it start fermenting at a higher range and then start to drop it down into a lower range so that I know I get a really good start on that fermentation. The other thing that I'll do is almost every day I'll go by that fermenter and I'll agitate it slightly just to kind of get everything moving, and it'll always start bubbling a little more. And I do drop the temperature down because I want to get the advantages of fermenting at that lower end of the fermentation. But again, just starting it high and agitating it every few days or every day, not a whole lot, but just to kind of keep things moving around, seemed to have helped me a lot in getting to those lower gravity readings. So I don't know what else you could do, but and also, of course, let it ferment longer. So, if you're not where you need to be, let it go a little further. At some point it's going to stop, but I think a lot of times people may stop the fermentation before they're ready to, because they haven't taken a gravity reading to see where it is. So those would be my suggestions.
Another piece of info he didn't put in that I'll reach back out to Craig, because obviously I have all these people's emails when they write in. He didn't mention what he pitched, what yeast strain. and from who. Would that make a big difference, guys? Like, or could it?
Yeah.
Oh, sure.
Huge.
Absolutely.
I mean,
yeah.
So the beer I just brewed that went down to 0.08, that was I don't know if I'm saying this right. Gnome
Gnome.
from Imperial.
Gnome.
Gnome. Is
Gnome.
It gnome?
It is gnome. Yeah, gnome.
Yeah.
Like, gnome.
So the gnome is a yeast I've never used before. Well, I did 3.5 batches, so I was going to pitch 4 things of yeast with it because I've never brewed this Belgium either. I know Belgians sometimes have issues, so we actually had 2 of them that were expired. So I pitched 5 because I didn't want to pitch, an expired one as one of the 4. So I used a lot of yeast. I mean, using a lot of yeast is certainly going to help keep that fermentation going as well. Or doing, like James said, doing a starter would help as well. Although I never do that, but maybe I should, because I don't do it because I have a great excuse. Imperial yeast gives me yeast to brew with because they want me to experiment and do different things with their yeast. So if they didn't do that, I would probably do more starters, right?
Hey, this is a great time to inject that in the future. We're working out. The Imperial's going to be a sponsor on the show again of the weekly episode. So we're happy about that. They already sponsor our monthly recipe kits going out. And when we first brought them on board, there was only like 25 people getting them. They're like, yeah, that's no big deal. Now that we're getting up to like 60 people getting recipes, I'm just waiting for them to be like, hey, can we restructure this? But they haven't. They're saints.
No.
They're saints over there. Casey and Owen.
Yeah, they are.
Mainly Casey. Owen, you're a nice guy. But mainly Casey. She's a saint. She's like, yeah, no, that's no problem. How many do you need? They're like, well, this is how many we have this month. Yeah, okay. I'm like, oh, thank God. Because if it were me, I'd be like, what happened to just 20? Like 20 is more reasonable. Not this like 63 now or whatever it is a month that get recipes.
Yeah, they've been super to work with, and it's easy to love them as a sponsor because we are fanatical about using their yeast already. So
because
again,
it works.
Josh, don't tell them this. Gosh, I hope she's not listening to the podcast, but we'd probably talk about them all the time if they didn't sponsor.
Yeah, I told you nobody listens.
No, we actually did.
Yeah, we had. Yeah, I begged them to sponsor the show because I'm like, please, because I already talk about you so much. But back to
it's a great company.
It really is. But back to Craig's question. So from the extract side of things, yeast might have, like, the fermentation process is your best bet of controlling the final, right? That we're all
if you don't have enough numbers, then you have what's called lag time, can produce off flavors, and it can get it going. Plus, also, yeast like to eat and go to sleep. So if you don't have enough and it takes too long for it to multiply, a lot of times you get what's called a stuck fermentation. And it's hard to get that to get going again. I'm looking at the recipe now. I pulled it up online, and the starting gravity is 1052. The final is 1014. Now, it's got 6.3 pounds of LME. Well, actually 3 pounds of DME, 3.3 pounds of LME, but it's got almost 2 pounds of non-fermentable grains. They're steeping grains, so it's not going to do anything for you, but I'd have to look at the LME and the DME. I don't know how much of that's can completely ferment out, but I just never have researched that.
I'm almost sure you could get it lower than that, though. I think I've noticed on a lot of those recipes we have it a little higher. And I think it's because part of it is because maybe part of the profile is for it to be a little sweeter. Yeah. And I pretty much ignore that often and bring it down lower because I don't want it to be that sweet,
you've evolved into that kind of brewer that how you like your beers and you know how to manipulate it to make it produce those results.
I was actually kind of surprised on this Belgium that it was below 1.01 because I don't think I've ever seen a recipe that we had that was below that, below that mark. So
you're the only one I know. And what was it, James, that he brewed? It was last year. Remember that it finished out below 1010. What was it?
Yeah, it was like, I want to say it was 1.007.
Yeah, it was something low because you're the only one.
Lager, I think.
Okay.
Maybe not, but that gnome is pretty good for clear beer. And I think the attenuation on that's pretty high too. So it's a higher temp. You can ferment with that. I want to say almost up into 80-degree range.
And and not to push Craig, he mentioned this, so that's why I'm going to follow up on it. This should be the year you switch to all grain if you crave that control over your brew, all grain is there for you. And you could probably, if you already have the big enough kettle, you could probably brew in a bag to start your transition and then have even still all that control over the final product without spending a bunch on equipment. I will say, however, right now, still till the end of the month, that cooler brew system's still on sale for it's only like $258, I think, or $257 and some change. That's where I would do, because I've used the cooler brew beer. Because
it's a fun way.
It's 10 gallons. It's easy. And that, the best beer my pop and I have made have come from that cooler brew. So that's what I would do to jump into. But to be fair, we've talked about this on other episodes. I've never done brew in a bag. And we all know my experience with the Spite Solo prototype. The Spite Solo has been getting rave reviews, and I know they're doing good stuff with it. My prototype, my pop and I still haven't figured it out yet. But that's coming in 2021. But anyways, I think, Craig, if you're going to jump to all grain, might as well do it, man. Maybe get that tax money come back, or maybe the president's going to send us stimulus checks, or who knows? Maybe
he claims another 2,000's coming.
That's what I saw
this year. So.
I'm waiting because I'm going to buy some more GameStop stock. But anyway, that's a stupid inside joke that like 5 people are going to get. But anyway, Craig, thank you so much for submitting your question. This is a great time to remind you, if and when we take your question on a future episode, we give you a $25 gift card to kegconnection.com, courtesy of Mr. Todd Burns. So thank you, sir, for your generosity. Moving on to question number 2. Came from our buddy Alec, who also used the submission form at homebrewhappyhour.com. And Alec wrote, "Cheers from New Mexico. You have a great following in my area, so please come brew with us sometime soon. The question I have for the podcast is about sterilizing additions during fermentation. For example, how important is it to sterilize the hops or the hops bag if I'm going to add hops after primary? How do you sterilize the additions you choose to use during fermentation? Is dunking in vodka acceptable, or do you recommend using a proper sanitizer like Star San? Cheers, Alec." Real quick, don't you have a connection in New Mexico? We've been talking about wanting to go to New Mexico. Don't you, someone owns a brewery or cidery, or I forget the whole story.
He worked at a cidery, and then he ended up being head brewer at a brewery in the mountains. I haven't heard from him in a while, so we'll have to. That'd be cool to do a road trip and do a podcast there.
I love New Mexico. Beautiful state. Yeah. Beautiful state. And usually I'm just driving through it, but I've always had really good food and fun times there. But anyways, back to his question. He's referring to dry hopping. I hardly ever dry hop on that Happy Little Hops that we talked about, and I'm pretty sure the Low Tide probably has some dry hopping. I've always just sterilized the bag. I've never thought to sterilize the hops.
There's no reason to sterilize the hops. One of the purposes of an IPA, if I recall, is to keep the beer from spoiling, and so they just add more hops. So if that's the case, why would hops prevent or cause a problem with?
Yeah,
with
you're not
sanitation?
going to have a problem with the hops. I agree. I always, I don't know what you do, James. I always boil the bag. So I take a little. What I do. You did? Okay. So I just take a little pan of water, get it to boiling, dunk the bag down in there and let it boil for a minute. And then that's how I sterilize the bag, and then put the hops in it and throw it in.
Yeah. In fact, a good way too, steam's the most effective way of sterilizing anything. And if you're opposed to dunking the whole bag in the water, if you have a strainer, you can set the strainer over the steam, throw the bag in there, and it'll sanitize it just as good.
Perfect. Sorry, I'm over here telling my dog, stop making noise. This puppy, I had to mute my mic because whatever, and that has nothing to do with the question.
So that was a quick question.
That was a quick question. Yeah,
that's the answer.
Well, yeah, and what I liked about that is he can dunk it. I mean, people do dunk it, and in alcohol, but you don't need to waste vodka. Like you said.
I have total faith he was going to drink the vodka.
Okay,
afterwards.
yeah.
we wouldn't let a little bag dunking spoil our vodka drink, right?
Exactly. Yeah. Anyways, thank you, Alec, for submitting that question. Moving on to question number 3, came from Omar B, who also used the submission form at homebrewhappyhour.com. Omar wrote, "Longtime listener here, Joshua. Don't let anyone tell you that you don't add value to the program. My homebrew club laughs at you all the time." Winky face. That's not nice. "I'm thinking about upgrading my beer lines to the ultra barrier lines that you have on Keg Connections. I know that it's considerably more expensive than PVC lines, but my hopes are that it will give me some leeway in line cleaning. Basically, I am admitting that I'm like you, Josh, and I don't clean my lines as often as I should. In Todd's opinion, should I not even bother upgrading to the more expensive lines if I'm not going to clean them every 2 weeks? Or will a benefit of these new lines be that I can get away with cleaning them between new batches of kegs? I really do love your podcast, and I hope you can help me here. Omar. I was going to say, well, first, I knew I had to say something. It's, don't go to kegconnections.com. Many years ago, Todd never secured that domain, and I think it was Kegworks or some other company that does just the commercial draft side of stuff. They bought it. It's singular. You know how many times we get support calls of people like, I bought this from you, and our sales lead or service lead will go, no, I don't see that order number. That didn't even sound like an order. Yeah, you're Keg Connections, right? And it's like, oh, son of a gun. You thought you were ordering from us, but that other retailer got your business because you added an S. So singular, kegconnection.com. But Todd, he asked your opinion. He didn't even care about mine. You're the man of clean lines. What do you think? Like, is a benefit of the ultra barrier that he can get away with not having to clean it as frequently, or does he still need to maintain that kind of rigorous 2 or 3 week cleaning schedule?
The idea behind it is it has the one with the silver lining is the one we're talking about, right?
Yeah, the silver barrier hose.
Correct.
Okay, yeah. So because they make two, I just want to make sure I understood. So the idea is that silver helps keep it sterile or cleaner. I have to be completely upfront here. I have not used it before, so I've put it on systems and we've tested it, made sure there wasn't any aftertaste, that sort of thing. But I don't normally use it. You know, I actually don't ever use standard 3/16 beer line anymore because everything I have is flow control, and they don't make that in a larger beer size. So I'm using 5/16 ID lines on all my stuff. So I don't use it, but I mean, I clean my lines on a regular basis. Since I'm on this alcohol-free thing, I haven't cleaned my lines all month. I feel very guilty about that. In fact, I'll probably clean them tonight just before we.
No, you won't. Oh yeah, that's like me telling you, yeah, I'll get to that soon. No, you won't.
Okay, I'm gonna send you. I'm gonna send it to you when I'm cleaning them later.
Deal. Just because right. I'm surprised you didn't do it. Like, what do you do with your free time that you're not drinking? I figured you would have cleaned them twice this month already.
No, I haven't cleaned them this month. It's been like 3 weeks since I've cleaned them. It's embarrassment. But yeah.
Don't ask me when I clean mine.
But yeah, I mean, I don't think that that's going to make it so you can't you don't have to clean your lines. I joke around about it a lot, but I know most people just clean between kegs, and that probably works fine for most people. You know, I mean, if you don't care about the taste of your beer, then be like James and Josh, and clean them whenever you get around to it. That's fine.
You know, that's what the new keg's for, right?
That's just right.
Flush the old.
And see, James, we're on the same page. Well, I remember our buddy Greg with EJ Beverage back when he was with them. One of their whole selling points of their ultra barrier silver line, whatever, was not necessarily longevity of the hose as much as the flavor of the beer coming through it. Like they always said, like, oh, when you have PVC lines, it tastes like a shower curtain. You know, it tastes like you get that bad taste. But if you use this tubing, you won't have that. To where, yeah, I always said like, I don't think my palate's very developed because I don't. But it is a lot. It is a lot, like Omar said. You know, it is not as affordable. But you know, if the hygiene, like, if you are making a point to put all stainless connections everywhere beer touches, it would make sense to want to use premium tubing too, right? Because what good is that beer if it's going to go through some unclean, lower grade tubing? You could make an argument of saying like, yeah, you might, if you're gonna try to be as hygienic as possible, then yes, I think there is a definite benefit. It's not just more expensive because they're trying to make more money. It is a lab, and you know, like the R and D that went into creating that is justified why that price is at what it's at. They're not trying to just, yes, give us $1 more per foot because we have good marketing. But with that being said, I'm like you, James, where it's like, I'll just replace the line. If I don't get it clean, I'll just replace the line. And I think Omar, to wrap up his question, if you want it for the hygienic purposes, I think go ahead and get the upgrade, but don't get it thinking that you can just not clean it at all, because then you're just going to find yourself replacing. That's not the purpose of the tubing, right? Right, Todd? You'd agree that's not.
Yeah, and the main purpose, the main thing that they sold their tubing on was not even the silver lining. It's nice to always have a silver lining, right? But the main reason that they did it is because it doesn't have some of the chemicals that the PVC has in it, and even though that PVC is NSF rated, and it's rated and made for beer. One of the things that beer hose, the type that we use, which is like a Bevflex, it's made in the USA. Some of it's made in Canada, but it's made in the USA or Canada. All the stuff we sell right now is made in the USA. It's dual durometer, and I know I've talked about this before, but it's very important because if the plasticizers that are in that line can leach out a lot easier, the softer the hose is. So when you make it harder, they don't leach out as much. So what they're doing is they're doing the inner part of it is very hard and the outer part is soft, and they do that because by doing that it allows the hose to be a lot more flexible. But then the inner being harder allows it to be not as permeable, and you don't have that leaching that could occur with a softer hose.
Interesting. That actually, I was sitting there. I don't know if you saw my face. I was like, "Whoa, he knows his tubing." Like, rarely am I actually impressed. That was good, man.
Yeah, and also on the bigger ID hoses, if it's a dual durometer, doesn't it? Because of the hardness, it will promote better flowing of the liquid through the center.
Yeah, I mean it all. So a trunk line that you sell some, James, for really long systems, they're even harder. They're super hard, and because of the only problem with it being really a really high durometer is it's also based on the material that they use, I believe, but it doesn't restrict as much. So you get a lot. You got to have a balance between restriction and flexibility and all these different things to kind of come up. And that's what they've been doing this a lot of years. And like I said, it's all NSF approved. It's very, very good for beer. So
Perfect, man. That was a great, I got more out of that than I think I get out of most questions. That was good. I like that. Maybe I'm going to upgrade now, or I need to pay more attention, or maybe I'll clean my lines out. Or no, I'm not.
Maybe we need to order more hose.
Maybe we need, yeah, right, yeah. No, I'm not going to do any of that. But anyway, thank you, Omar, so much for submitting your question.
So let me make sure I'm clear on something. EJ Beverage is not dual durometer. I'm talking about the hose with the Bevflex that we sell.
No. I know what you meant. I just meant like maybe I shouldn't beat myself up so much over not having it. And maybe I need to clean my lines because it's been so long. Yeah, I didn't finish each thought. I was doing like a bullet point of each thought I had in my head. The one thought being like, maybe I don't necessarily need that silver lining. I could just clean my lines up more. Maybe I should start by replacing the lines sooner than later, or cleaning them out. To be fair, they're at my parents, so I always throw my dad under the bus. Like, Dad, when's the last time you cleaned the lines?
It's his responsibility, not yours.
That's what I'm saying, man. Yeah, they're over there. They're not here. If they were,
that's where it's at.
Yeah, see? I'm smarter than I look. It just happens that I don't look very smart. So anyways, Omar, thank you so much for submitting your question. We got one more for this week's show. Before we wrap it up, comes from our buddy Thomas, who also used the submission form at homebrewhappyhour.com. Thomas wrote, "Hi guys, fellow homebrewer here, hoping that I can get some clarity on James's CM Becker faucets that I hear so much about. A lot of them say that they have a creamer function, and I guess I don't fully understand why that's something I would want. Would the lack of a full head when I pour from my kegerator indicate an issue with my beer, and the creamer faucet would compensate for that? Or is the creamer faucet just adding icing to the cake? Cheers from El Paso, Tom." El Paso is another great city. Don't go. We got two people who are kind of geographically near the same area this week, New Mexico and El Paso. But anyway, James, we do talk about CM Becker faucets a lot. Sure. I feature them on my Instagram because that's all I use. That's all any of us use on our setups. Have you gotten upgraded first off to the V10s? Todd said that was like a goal for 2021 was getting
No, actually what I did was I have the stuff. I'm going to be putting the X1s like the chain Twin Peaks uses, we had some scratched bodies in the back stock room, so I put 4 together.
You're talking about the new stainless steel ones?
No,
See?
you remember the scratched bodies that we had to take back from a customer?
Oh,
We have a whole bag of those.
Well, I know we did that new one for them. That's actually stainless now. So I didn't know if we had some of those that got scratched.
Those are in very high demand, so we got to get them for customers.
Yeah. When you said Twin Peaks, they just put one. The town I'm moving to is San Marcos, and I've always lived right next to it. And they just put one there, and I always joked with my wife when we drive by, like, honey, I'm going to have to drop in for a work trip. I mean, they use the products that we sell.
R&D. Customer.
Yeah. It's a family. They put it off as a family diner, I think. Maybe. No, they don't. I would say, so back to Thomas's question, James, about the creamer function. First, before we get into the whole part of lack of a full head, what I like about the creamer function is it allows me to add to whatever my pour. I'm always drinking in Kolsch glasses, and especially on the first pour. Sometimes it's too foamy, and then, or sometimes if it's not under carb, that's the wrong way to say it. It depends on my PSI of how it's pouring. I can always rely on the creamer function to add some more, and it's a little bit it's frothier than the standard head, if that makes sense. So like a
lot of Germans will tell you that if you don't have the foam, it takes away from most of the way the beer's supposed to taste. No foam, no flavor. So it's not really so much icing on the cake, or maybe it is if you think about it that way. But if you're drafting a beer, Todd, you can back me up on this. If you draft a beer and it comes out flat, then that's a whole other issue. And you're not going to compensate for the way the beer tastes by putting a creamer. All our creamer functions, all our beer faucets have creamer function, CMB faucets. And really what it is it just pushes beer through a little tiny hole. And it allows the CO2 to come out of the liquid as it's being poured through the faucet, so it creates that foam. But you still want to have a good carbonated beer. Yeah,
absolutely. Really fine foam. It's like when you froth something at Starbucks to get it when you get that really nice fine foam. There's just something about that foam that makes it taste better.
It adds aromatics and flavor to the beer.
Right.
Yeah. I remember we went to, where was it? It was in Prague, where they were asking you how much foam you want. You want full foam, half foam?
Oh, it was. Yeah.
Foam?
Yep.
And people in Prague, they drink them. You could tell the locals because they drink full foam beer because that's part of the beer.
I do remember that. Someone had a Chet Dark lager that was like 50% head. And then they had ones where it looked like 75% head on the pour, where I was like, oh my gosh. But I mean, more power to you if that's what you want. But to address his part, I don't think that the development behind, because creamer functions are not new. I mean, they've been out in the wild since before I was born.
In Europe a long time.
That's what I mean. Europeans, flow control, creamer function, that kind of stuff has been around since well before I was alive. But I don't believe that they made it because it's like, you can be lazy with your brew and or with your carbonation process, and then this will make up for it. No, I think they were doing that to, like you said, for the experience of the draft beer. Like it's a whole experience for a lot of bars, and a lot of breweries that serve their beer on site have a certain way they want to present their beer, a certain temperature, certain pour style, whatever. I think that was the selling feature of a creamer function, was allowing them to add to it. And like Todd said, it's not the same as just the head that you would get. It is a little bit frothier. I love it. I do it, especially on that melt stout. We still have a little bit of Todd's melt stout where it pours great. And then I always I'll get the head just right on the Kolsch glass, and then I still top it off to where it's just about to pour off, just because I enjoy the mouthfeel of the additional foam. But to answer his question, if you're having issues with getting any head on your beer, that indicates there's an issue with probably your carbonation, right? Or would that also?
Yeah, it's probably undercarbonated.
Right.
If it's drafting like that, I know that when I first keg my beers, I carb them a little light, and then let them gradually build up in the kegerator, and they draft really well the first couple of days, and then as the foam starts to build, like I said, my system the shanks need to be cooled down, which I have all that to take care of. I just need to do it.
Yeah, I have a whole pitch list of that, man. I'll take care of that. I just need to do it. Todd over there can relate. By the way, cool glasses. What were you reading?
I'm trying to validate our PayPal account so people can start donating.
Oh, yeah. We do have and get them the invoices for the Kolsch Cup. People, I've been sending emails out all day this whole week, every day, people who are signing up and telling them, I'm hoping by Friday, or the plan is, not hoping, the plan is we're sending them out Friday. And Todd, you can confirm, right? We'll have it up and running to where we can send them the PayPal invoices for Kolsch Cup by Friday.
I don't know that. I don't know how long it takes to verify it.
Crap. No. No, I'm not talking about the bank part. I'm talking about you already created the PayPal account. So
yes.
So that's what I mean. We can send them invoices. Us transferring the money might not be happening by Friday, but we can take their payments to the new PayPal account. That's what I mean. Because you finished that setup. I was on the phone with you. I'm pretty sure we finished that setup. Okay. So yeah, wrapping up Thomas's question. If you go to your favorite retailer, kekenetchen.com, singular, or homebrewsupply.com, or wherever you want to buy the faucet from, you can get all the information in the product listing of all the CM Becker faucets. But the creamer function specifically, I like James said, you're gonna get it with any of the faucets. I kind of, is the Etz one, or no, they all do have creamer function. My bad. Like you said,
yeah,
they all have creamer function.
The only thing that would be our wine faucets, but we don't market or sell those as beer faucets.
Right, exactly. And it's a great feature that I think you find using more than you would think you would use it, if that makes sense. Like even on Todd's V10s, I use it almost every pour, mainly, so I can get those photos of the perfect pour and tell people, look how good I am. I have a future in bartending when Todd fires me, blah, 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 blah. But anyways, Thomas, thank you so much for submitting your question. Guys, that's all I have for this week. It was, no, actually, we've been recording for like almost an hour. So it was a good episode. Got a lot of information out there. And again, I look forward so much. I don't know if we're going to cap off Kolsch Cup. We haven't really talked about capping it because it's been hovering at like the 40-ish, and then it just skyrocketed this week past 50. Are we going to try to cap it, Todd? Or do you think we're good on Kolsch Cup? Like, just let it flow.
I think we got to cap it at some point. I don't think we could do 100.
You don't? I mean, I don't know.
I don't think you're going to be near as objective on your 100th one.
That's you're right.
This number 70 fall off the stool.
Yeah,
this is great. I love Kolsch.
You turned into Bobcat Goldthwait all of a sudden. Anyway, thank you guys so much for joining me. I look forward to seeing y'all next week. I'll talk to y'all soon.
Thanks.
See ya.
Bye.
And that will do it for this episode of the Homebrew Happy Hour. If you have a question you would like us to discuss on a future episode, you can go to homebrewhappyhour.com and click on that submit a question link at the top of the page. Or again, you can call or text them in by using 325-305-6107. Like you heard at the top of the show, sign up for the Inaugural Kolsch Cup and see if you can become our grand champion. Learn more at kolschcup.com and get a free Kolsch recipe on us when you join our top tiers at patreon.com/homebrew happy hour. On behalf of Todd Burns, James Carlson, and the Pearl Media Network, I'm Joshua Stubing. Thank you for listening.
This program is made possible by the checkbook of Mr. Todd Burns and by contributions to our newly launched Patreon by viewers like you. Visit patreon.com/homebrew happy hour and join our community. Thank you.